Okay, we have a new quarterback deal. And no, Gino Smith's new contract with the Las Vegas Raiders will not have an impact on Brock Purdy's potential new deal with the 49ers. These two contracts negotiated on totally opposite spheres. Purdy's in his mid-20s, top-tier quarterback, going to be above $50 million annually. Gino Smith is in his mid-30s, mediocre quarterback, number 21 in QBR last year. This deal comes out to $38.8 million per year. It's an extension, 2 years worth about $85.5 million, but the existing season of $31 million, which the Raiders inherited from the Seahawks in the trade, that also factors into it. So $38.8 million makes Gino Smith the number 15 highest ranked quarterback by APY in football. Brock Purdy's number is going to be significantly higher than that for the reasons that I just illustrated. Also want to talk about the George Kittle extension because that's coming this offseason. Trey McBride of the Cardinals, star young tight end, has signed a big deal that is going to pave the way for George Kittle to potentially sign his extension with the 49ers. But first, you guys probably wondering the airport. Some of you travel vets probably know where I am. Here's your hint, since we're talking about quarterbacks. Yes, Denver. John Elway, quarterback of the Broncos, just so happens that it was for Mike Shanahan. Right after Mike Shanahan had gotten the coach, Steve Young. So John Elway, Hall of Famer, one of the great dual threat quarterbacks of all time. Steve Young, one of the great dual threat quarterbacks of all time. It is no coincidence that Mike Shanahan got to coach both, and then Kyle Shanahan, some 30 years later, has been looking, or had been looking, for a dual threat quarterback. Past perfect tense there, because he's found a dual threat quarterback in Brock Purdy. But the whole Trey Lance thinking, the reason the 49ers picked Trey Lance over current 49er Mac Jones, notice that the football gods have a sense of humor. The reason that they picked Lance was because he, based on what the 49ers thought at the time, had the ceiling, the upward expandability of somebody with a strong arm, but also the mobility for Kyle Shanahan to be able to potentially enjoy what his dad did with John Elway and Steve Young. It obviously didn't work out with Trey Lance, but it obviously is working out with Brock Purdy, who has the mobility to raise the ceiling and also the throwing accuracy and the brains, the process within the realm of the pocket. That's what Mike Shanahan wanted. That's what he got with Elway and with Steve Young, and that's what Kyle Shanahan has wanted. That's what he has with Brock Purdy, who has been throwing to George Kittle, who is the best tight end in the game. Well, the best tight end in the game is entering the lame duck year of his contract. That means that he's going to want to be paid as the top tight end in the game. I don't think that this is rocket science. Well, Trey McBride, who's entering his 4th year with the Arizona Cardinals, really good young tight end, just signed a deal worth up to $76 million over 4 years. The new money on that deal is $19 million per year, which is number 1 at the tight end position. Back when George Kittle signed his extension with the 49ers in 2020, he broke the market. I mean, he really elevated the ceiling for tight ends at $15 million per year. But since then, George Kittle has slipped to number 4 on the tight end list. Travis Kelce at a little bit over $17 million, and of course, Trey McBride now at $19 million. But what this does is that it opens the door for George Kittle to sign a contract, an extension with the 49ers worth $20 million annually. I think that's probably going to be the number for George Kittle. And guess what? It is still one of the best bargains in all of football. An elite tight end is a cheat code, because look at the receivers at the top of the heap right now. They're making what, $40 million per year? So if the top wideouts are making $40 million per year, but the top tight end, or the top tight ends, in the case of the 49ers, it's the top tight end, George Kittle is delivering like a wide receiver 1. I mean, 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons, had 8 touchdown catches last season, plus he's blocking. But if he's delivering at that level and doing more for half the price, $20 million for George Kittle would be an absolute bargain for San Francisco. And a lot of people are saying, well, why did they wait? Why haven't the 49ers executed the contract extension with George Kittle already? Well, it's because George has to sign the contract extension as well, and he'd be out of his mind knowing that Trey McBride was up for an extension this offseason. He would have been out of his mind to have signed before McBride, because Kittle is better than McBride. He's better than Brock Bowers. He's the best in the game, and the top money is going to be reserved for him since he's still playing prime football, entering his age 32 season. So now that McBride is gone, since everybody knew that that was going to happen this offseason, I think that the coast is clear, and we're going to see at some point this offseason a new extension for George Kittle, maybe something that adds 3 years onto the lifespan of his contract. I don't think you're going to see a 5-year deal. He's going to be 32 years old coming up this next season. The 49ers definitely want to make sure that he stays with them for at least the next 2 seasons, because that would put him up on the 10-year wall alongside Kyle Juszczyk, and I think that's a really, really big deal for the 49ers. Kittle and Juszczyk, the 2 longest tenured 49ers. Kittle broke the tight end market back in 2020, and I think he's set to elevate that ceiling yet again. And I think he's going to become the first tight end worth $20 million annually. When you're as good as George Kittle, with those consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons on the wrong end of 30, with the bill of health, or at least the availability that he's shown even through some of the injuries over the past couple years, you're that locker room fixture. I mean, especially with Brandon Ayuk right now in question as whether or not he's going to be available for week 1. And even if he is available, we saw that the first 7 weeks of last season weren't quite as good. You got to consider George Kittle to be the 49ers' most dangerous target in the pass game, especially given the fact that Kyle Shanahan has really aimed for such adaptability. And one thing that the 49ers have done this offseason, and Shanahan talked about it at the owners' meetings during the breakfast there earlier this week, Luke Farrell, the tight end 2 of the 49ers signed, he's there for many reasons. Obviously, run blocking is huge, but one of the big reasons is so he can pass block. George Kittle stayed back to pass protect 58 times last year, and he averaged well over 2 yards per route run, something like 2.6 yards per route run for George Kittle, which was at the top of all tight ends, of course, and near the top of the list, even if you included receivers. This guy's just an alien. But if you just do simple math, 2.6 yards per route run times the 58 times he pass blocked, so that was an opportunity cost, right? He wasn't able to go out and run a route. 49ers left like 152 receiving yards on the table for George Kittle last year, just by simple math. Well, they want Farrell to do more of the pass blocking and Kittle to do more of the route running. Keep Kittle fresh, moving ahead into his 30s. This is an A-list player the 49ers want to double down on. He's a future Hall of Famer that they can double down on. He's only gotten better with age, and Trey McBride's contract sets the table for the 49ers to pay George Kittle again. Now, while I'm in Denver, talked to the Broncos head coach a little bit earlier this week in a much warmer environment. I mean, this right here outside, I think it's about it is snowing here in Denver. So we're headed up to Montana, by the way. Got the cowboy hat, not on this video. Cowboy boots are on here. I'll show you the cowboy boots in a second. But we're headed up to Montana. Earlier this week in Palm Beach, we talked to Sean Payton, who coaches the Broncos. And since we're in Denver, he's coaching a defense that has DJ Jones, former 49er, right up the middle, Dre Greenlaw right up the middle, and Talanoa Hufanga right up the middle. Let's hear in from Sean Payton about the 3 ex-49ers who have joined the Broncos. And right after we hear from Sean Payton, I promise you a look at the cowboy boots here from Denver, the land of Elway, McCaffrey, and, of course, Shanahan.
From a communication standpoint, I mean, you talked about it. You know, part of the middle of the defense was DJ. Yep. Right behind him, Trey and Fonga. Right through the middle of our defense, you know, getting tough. And look, the irony is DJ shared a locker room with these guys and knows them very well. And so from a leadership and a football IQ standpoint, that was important.
It's important to have all 3 of those guys kind of go. They should have an easy adjustment period.
Yeah, I think so. I think anytime, it depends on the player. I think, look, the transition always is significant, and yet I think these guys will have a familiarity with certainly some teammates, and then also whether it be coaches. There always seems to be a couple ties in each staff. But we were excited on Wednesday. I'll be honest with you. We felt we got better.
With Hufanga, what does he bring that was missing last year?
Well, he's a great communicator. He's super intelligent. I think his experience, and there is a toughness about the way he plays. you know, sometimes you can be a second responder, sometimes a first responder, and he appears first a lot on screen. And there's a style to how he plays. And look, part of that style, because he's so physical and so quick to support, you know, he's had, you know, a handful of injuries, but there's a toughness to his game, and you guys will like him. Something about him when you meet him and you visit with him. So that was a big get. You know, we felt excited about that.
Was there a common thread with him and Greenlaw coming over from the 49ers that attracted you to those guys?
I think that was a little bit more coincidence. Yeah, I mean, there were positions, they were kind of must positions for us, and yet to fill two of them from one team, and I think one may have helped the other too. You know, sometimes that can happen, but I can't speak for them. If there is a common thread, though, those two guys are tone setters in how they play.
Agency?
It's their player
Yeah.
at that time.
Okay. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, for us, nothing can happen until that Wednesday time frame. And so, man, I'm glad he chose us.
Were you aware in the moment that he agreed with us, but
No, the only discussions that are being had at that time are agent to GM. No, like I said, I'm just glad, you know, when the decision was finalized. You wait on a few of these guys, and you don't know all the specifics, but yeah, those guys are excited about being in Denver.
He's coming off the Achilles.
Yep.
He plays basically one half of football. Are you at all surprised at the level of competition that you had to sign him?
We thought he was going to be highly sought after. You know, in other words, I think the injuries maybe played a little part as to how he became a free agent. Otherwise, he'd have never hit the free agent market. He's someone that's contract is redone. So I don't think I should say nothing surprises you anymore, but we felt like there would be. These guys are young players when you look at their pitch count and their age, and then you study the injuries themselves. Yeah, I wasn't really surprised that there would be other teams that heavily involved.
Does that have a reflection on the depth of the draft at that inside linebacker?
I would say it's a fair question. I think it's a little bit harder. I don't know that it's draft related. I think it's a little bit harder to say. We found our starting inside backer, whether it's a Mike or Will. It's harder to say that about a rookie. There's certain positions that, and that's not to say that a rookie can't come in and do it, but I think it's harder to project that. That factors into it, but I also think we felt like it was a pretty lean year in regards to free agency at that position, just relatively speaking. But there is depth in the draft.
When there's a deep position in the draft, maybe take quarterbacks off the board, does it affect how you approach thinking about getting one? Oh well, maybe in the second or third, that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
when you're kind of putting this cube together, part of it is understanding what's available in the draft. Well, what do the odds suggest? It's deep at interior defensive line, for instance. Those things can affect maybe what you do in free agency, and you're looking to click the last click and have it all fit and get the most out of the players you sign or draft. So it would be important to know, as we're making free agent decisions, where the draft is depth-wise at certain positions. That I do think exists.